Vanessa, a lot of them.
Great, thanks. I don't have a huge amount, and some of my stuff's already been asked.
I'm presuming it's again.
Mr. Cooney, in your opening statement, you spoke briefly of the metrics that you've adopted around early adopters and the people getting the highest bandwidth packages.
Speed tier, yes.
Could you maybe table for us a breakout across the different brackets, as I think Mr. Quigley might have done for us last time, of the different cohorts and the packages that they're taking up?
Yes, no problem. Actually, Mr. Hassel probably has a better view of that. This is the breakdown of the speed tiers in how they compare to what we were expecting.
Yes, so in the fibre footprint, so far, our corporate plan that we'd had anticipated that we'd have about 49% of services on the 12.1 wholesale at the wholesale level, the entry level product.
Sorry, just give us that number again.
49%, and 28% on the 25 megabits per second service, and 5% on the 50 megabits per second service, and 18% on the 140 megabits per second service.
Now, is that 18% at the top tier what surprised you a bit? That wasn't in your model, was it?
No, that was the corporate plan, so that was what we'd actually modelled. What we've actually seen so far is that the top tier, the 140 service, in fact, has attracted 44% of services.
You predicted 18% at that premium level.
We predicted 18.
You get nearly half.
And yes, nearly half,
okay.
44%.
It is still too soon to know whether that trend is going to continue or whether you're still just harvesting early adopters who are going bonkers with this stuff. Is that fair?
It is still too early to say whether that trend is going to continue, so we monitor that pretty closely. We'd like to go and complete some areas before we know what that will actually be. Having said that, we do have some sites with some very high take-up levels. So, for example, Kiama is over 40% in terms of take-up, and even in those sites, it's still very high. It's 38% at the top tier. So we're monitoring closely, and as I say, it is still early days to say whether that's going to continue.
Okay.
Perhaps
yeah, of course.
Add a little bit to that. The ABS data out last week shows a very significant growth in people, not just NBN, obviously, because the NBN network is only just starting to roll out, but taking the existing network shows a very significant jump in people seeking speeds of above 24 megabits per second. Some 469,000 in the last year. So we're talking about very big shifts in preferences for higher speed.
Okay.
And in practice, what it means on fixed lines is that the share of people looking for those very high speeds has gone from 18% in 2011 to more than 25% now.
Sorry, 18% was your model,
18%.
NBN's model.
No, I'm just talking about the Australian economy generally.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And attachment to speed. So I'm saying when you asked Mr. Hassel, and he agreed it's early days for the NBN fibre network, I'm just saying you can see a much wider pattern across the economy generally of subscribers seeking higher speed product. Obviously the existing network is limited in its ability to provide that, but the share is shifting quite noticeably.
I think it's called Moore's Law. This might seem a little mischievous, but what's the highest bandwidth, what's the highest speeds that you can get, just hypothetically, if somebody just parked this entire concept and rolled us into a fibre to the node architecture that relied on a whole heap of copper, what's the highest speeds that you can sustain even with good switching equipment and fibre to the cabinets? Am I still going to be able to buy into speeds higher than 25 meg?
Gary,
I'm not the technologist, so
that's all right. We've got them right here.
Somebody
got them here.
In a different architecture, it depends on a lot of factors.
But if we go to a fibre to the node architecture that's got cabinets on every street corner fanning out to copper for the last couple of kilometres, how fast could I sustain on that?
It comes down to where you can locate those cabinets, how close you can get to the customer. If you make an assumption that those cabinets are 1,000 metres, a kilometre away, then the speeds that you're looking at with today's technology that's used around the world would be maybe be able to get to that 25, 30 megabits per second.
Oh, but you're saying quite
Sorry,
a large...
that's an average. It depends on physically. If you're at 1,000 metres, you probably can't quite get, you wouldn't get 25. You'd be lucky
It would depend on the quality of the
Depends
copper.
on the quality of the copper, the length of the
Depend
loops.
on the infrastructure on the copper. There's a number of different things that would need to be upgraded on the
All
copper.
right, but the point, I guess, is made then. The 44% of NBN Co's ultimate retail customers who are buying into that premium service, that's not going to be able to be offered.
Would not be possible, no.
Okay, isn't that interesting? Let's pause and contemplate that for a second. I just wonder whether you've tabled it for 4 different. Oh, you haven't tabled, but you've described for us the 4 different speeds. When I suspect I put this to Mr. Quigley last time we asked, but when would you feel you'd be able to make confident predictions of what the ultimate traffic or bandwidth profile is going to be across the whole country?
You would really want to have completed the in a number of regions. You'd really want to have completed the actual rollout and the switch over from copper to the fibre service.
Like for a whole town or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When are you going to have all of Geraldton cabled up, for example? So this is a place that's very dear to my heart. And they're
I was just there recently, as you know.
I know you were. My
And
invite must have gone missing.
It is a very exciting place to be at the moment. Do we have a fix on Geraldton, roughly? I think we might be able to come back to you on...
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Certainly in our program,
Yeah.
as you know.
All right.
It's well under construction at the moment. They're actually rolling out in the streets of Geraldton at the moment.
That's very good. So you've got a town of 20 or 30,000 people all cabled up. Would you be able to say that's a big enough, statistically significant representative sample of the population that would tell you what your overall speed profile is going to be for an NBN customer across the whole country?
I think we'd want to do a bit more than that, than just one town at 20 or 30,000.
So
Different
cautious.
towns will have different take-up rates.
I think Mr. Hassel's point's the valid one, though. Until we actually close the copper network down, you've potentially got a bulk of people, that aren't necessarily interested in the internet, and they've got to be taken in as part of your overall percentages, and so we're not going to know what they're going to take up until we go through that process.
All right. Okay, well, that's to be continued. I'm going to keep asking about those. I think that's actually quite a highly significant statistic.
Yeah, no, it's very encouraging. I think Mr. Quigley, Mr. Hassel, everyone would say it's a very encouraging sign, but it's too early to make any absolute predictions yet.
Well, the caution is appreciated. I've got a couple of questions now about the move to build drops, which again, Mr. Cooney, you addressed briefly in your opening statement. I want to know how people in rented dwellings or people who are purchasing properties where previous landlords or owners rejected the lead-in, how they will be affected. What happens to premises where the lead-in was not called for?
So if someone doesn't have a lead in the area, they can order one. They're able to notify us, and we can later come in and deliver that.
How much of NBN Co's work is doing that? It's plugging gaps in places that could have been done when the cable crews went past initially.
I think our current projection is that about 30% we may have to. I can confirm that, but I think our current projection is it's around 30% we'll have to revisit. But it is to be expected is that we won't run not everyone will be available at that time, not everyone will want it, so that we expect that there will be some that we'll need to come back into later.
But it's the case that as of whenever that announcement was made, everything is being cabled up, or is an opt-out premise now that people can say actually actively I don't want this connection, or is it going to every premise?
Yeah, if somebody notifies us that they don't want it, then we won't build it onto their premise.
All right. Okay. Good. Thank you for that. I've just got some inquiries to make regarding NBN Co's relationship to Fujitsu. I've got a press release dated 13 May of 2011 announcing a contract worth $100 million over 12 months that said the sort of, boilerplate that NBN Co was very happy with Fujitsu's capability to do what they were going to be asked for. And 3 contracts to lay fibre. This is particularly with regard to Greenfields Estates. Fujitsu, one with Vision Stream and one with Service Stream. Well, can you tell us about the contract with Fujitsu and NBN Co's current relationship with that corporation?
Gary, would you like to?
So you're correct. We, back in May 2011, entered into a contract with Fujitsu to assist us with managing the rollout into greenfield estates. We were in a situation there where we needed to buy what we called a managed service. It was pretty much a managed service from Fujitsu to not only build that network but also operate the network after it was put in place. We've now moved to a situation where, because the brownfields rollout is actually extending across the country into many of the areas where our greenfield estates are happening, our contractors that are being used in our brownfields rollouts can assist us with the greenfields. So recently you'll have seen the introduction, I think you mentioned their names, of Vision Stream and Service Stream into our contract arrangements for greenfields as well.
So has that contract with Fujitsu concluded? Does NBN Co still have a commercial relationship with Fujitsu?
We do. We're still working with Fujitsu that are continue to roll out into the projects that they have worked on since we commenced with them last year.
Okay. Did they deliver what they were contracted to do? Did NBN Co get what it wanted out of its $100 million?
So yes, we have obviously worked with Fujitsu to make sure that they deliver on those projects that they were given. They were given a number of projects. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we have given them those projects. They have been obviously quality assured by us, checked, and are now being brought into service as part of our greenfields rollout.
Well, this might be traversing in a slightly more fine-grained way some of the questions Senator Birmingham was asking originally. The corporate plan released in August 2012 shows that NBN Co's network had passed 10,054 lots by 30th of June 2012. They had applications for 133,000. Mr Cooney, you indicated in your opening statement why greenfields were harder than NBN Co anticipated. But did Fujitsu only pass, maybe not connect, but pass 10,000 houses in 12 months, or premises, I should say?
So the numbers you're talking about are the greenfields numbers from the corporate plan, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Page 20 of the corporate plan.
So as of August, those numbers would be correct if they're in the corporate plan, the 10,000 lots that were passed by Fujitsu. Obviously it's increased since then. And we have now brought on these other contractors, as we mentioned.
So is there material difference to the work that Fujitsu has contracted to carry out compared to what Vision Stream and Service Stream are doing? Is that the distinction you're drawing before between greenfields and brownfield sites?
There is a difference. As I said, Fujitsu had more of a contract that they were also involved after the installation. They were also putting in what we call our temporary fibre access nodes, which are the actual equipment that's put on the estate and needs to be powered and deliver the services. We're now doing that with different contractors because it's more aligned with our brownfield rollout, where we use specialist contractors for different parts of the work.
Okay. So is it accurate to say that Fujitsu is primarily concerned with greenfields rollout and isn't going and backfilling older suburban lots?
So they are only working on greenfields rollout. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Yes, they are only working on greenfields.
That is the case. Whereas the other two contractors that I named are doing a mix.
They are doing, yeah, they're involved in the brownfields build in different regions around the country.
Okay, got
Stream and Service Stream.
All right, look, I might have a couple more to put on notice for you, but I'll leave it there and maybe come back a bit later. Thanks, Chair.